Cool. What are we doing today? We're doing something new. You know, I've wanted to get, I'm not gonna say absolutely want to get into React content, but it's not a bad thing. And also, like, I feel like, I don't know. It's good. It's a good thing that gets my name out there. Not that it's all about growth, but you know, we need some growth between all of our gaming. And plus, you know what? I'm a huge fan of learning new stuff. So, the mind constantly should expand so we can learn and be better as we get older.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be old and dumb and cranky. Just old. I guess nobody wants to be old either, but what can we do about it? Really? We can make ourselves better.
Meow.
I don't know. I don't know what my point is. Anyway, I thought about bringing back my Reddit, which wasn't really used to begin with. It was made during like the S&P Live stuff, and it died pretty quickly, which is like,
What's the dealio?
whatever. But rather than force my mods to moderate a second platform, well, I guess a third, if because Discord and Twitch. I thought, well, I didn't. One of my mods suggested Discord forums, which is almost literally the exact same thing, except there's not like upvotes, but people can react and stuff.
Some of you are cool, smart.
And comment. Like literally, it's quite literally a forum within a Discord server. So I made one yesterday with the help of my mods, and let you guys throw some stuff in there for me to take a look at. That's pretty much it. I don't really know where it's gonna go. Reactions, see some cool stuff. If y'all want to if y'all want to clip shit, please do. Once again, I'm gonna do this and then pin that. Cool. You guys have my full permission to like clip stuff from stream and like put it out in the ether of the internet, as long as like there is some form of credit to me, I guess. I don't really know. I feel like that's like something I haven't really stated and could, so I am. Reading your Discord posts. I don't know. I just want to throw myself out there more, I guess. You know, there's not like a guaranteed way to do it, but you know, who knows? If you guys want to help, you can. Obviously you don't have to, but this is a good way to work on it on my own side. Did I ever do the second part of the Freak Files? No, but Ether said it was done, so I can probably do that soon. So we will. Let's give this stuff a look, huh? All right, man. What do you guys want me to look at? Let's make this a bit easier to look at. What do you guys think?
Epics #C.
Well, that's not bad, right? I'm gonna change this name on this desktop capture to Discord. That way I know to use this one if I want to do this. Cool. Yeah, literally. So I don't know why I said literally, but I am gonna move the camera and such. Because you'll see in a second. Oh no, I'm being drowned by the money. If you guys don't already know how this works, like watch, I will click my post when I first made this. It's pinned, so whenever this is whenever you join, you can see this. This is a sub only thing, by the way. So there's two forums. There's one for everybody to use for like anything that they want to talk about. This one is specifically for me to use on stream that subs can use to send me dumb shit. Yes, exactly. You can send dumb shit in here. Anything that you think is interesting enough for me to look at on stream, you can send. My mods will look at them. I'm assuming if they delete it for whatever reason, they would give you a reason. But yeah. I will. Yeah, so look, like literally, if you're a sub and you're not in the Discord, go to the Discord. It's the pinned message. It's discord.gg/Sneeg. And if you are subbed and in the Discord and somehow don't already, you can connect your Twitch to your Discord and get the sub role for my server. And you're able to see this along with other benefits of being a sub on the server. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What else? Elliot, thank you for the year. Serenity, thank you for the 7. I should put my hair down. I just showered, so my hair's gonna be like all over the place, and I'm gonna fuck with it if I don't. What was the song? That was White Whale by Shadow Academy. And if you don't know who Shadow Academy is, it's Danny from Game Grumps' band. Shout out. So yeah, like literally if I click my post here, oh, I have to follow the post, I think. How do I open this? Oh, I have to follow it and then I have to click this. I unfollowed it earlier. So if we follow it, like literally I can see everything inside of this. So you can see my original message here and then all this stuff. And I can go back. And if I click it here, I can see it all on the side here, but like we don't need to do that. Yeah, let's literally. This was sent a minute ago. Fat man, look at him, Sneeg. I see you watching. Oh. I'm assuming this is him. I thought you meant me. I was like, damn. It's like, damn. I mean, I know I haven't been working out recently, but damn. I thought you meant me. I was like, what the fuck? I'm gonna stretch. I'm gonna let it do that, maybe.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. Oh, so many people are posting this stuff now. Mystery Flesh Pit? What? Oh, it's a Wendigoon video. Mystery Flesh Pit National Park?
Hey everyone, so
that is a 70-minute long video. I'll save it for later because I want to look at a lot of the other stuff on this forum. But once again, we don't have to do all this like immediately, but like me having this stuff to look at and go back to is huge. You know what I mean? Tier list of serial killers. Don't know if this is a smart idea or not, but because I'm hyperfixated on true crime, and even if you just tier list the crime times you've reacted to or just some of the world's notorious killers. But I did a tier list on them. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna do that. I understand. I don't think they're doing it. I don't think they're meaning like in a bad way. I just don't know how to tier list serial killers in a way that doesn't seem bad. You know what I mean? What murderer do I kin? Obviously Ted Bundy because he's hot. And yeah, he murdered a lot of teenage girls, but he was handsome. Can I like, ooh, this is nice. Puppy. Wait, video.
Tu perrito tiene el demonio adentro. El demonio. Mentiras, mi amor, que no tiene ningún demonio. El demonio. El demonio. Mentiras, mi amor. Cuando
He's saying the demon. He's got the demon. That's cute. Where do I'm trying to make this to where like I'm not taking up a bunch of shit. You know what I mean? You guys need to go over here.
With sneegsnag, no way.
There's gonna be way more room for you there, and then everybody can see stuff. Why is this? Ignore that. You guys want me to stream by League of Legends? Green things.
It's Piss Boy's 4th month. Time for the summoning.
A lot of things in my life are green. Even my username. Enjoy this green related compilation. Wait a minute. No, this is a Dallas Stars fan. I can't do this. Nope. 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 How dare you? How dare you? Don't you know what I've been going through as a Blues fan? How dare you pretend? How dare you put a Dallas Stars post in my Discord? You like the Blues? It's okay. Yeah, but I don't like the Stars. Rude. Rude. Cat discovers camera. Why does it look like the Grinch, man? Holy shit, these crows are pissed. Where'd it go? Oh my gosh. That was very cute. Expedition theme park. Interesting stuff on theme parks and rides. Their Expedition Extinct series has some good videos on some weird theme parks they made. Huh? Oh. Like a YouTube channel. Interesting. Okay, hold on. Let's see if there's a banger that's not super long. The troubled history of the Smiler Secret Weapon 7. Yeah, let's do it.
Alton Towers in the UK holds the current roller coaster record for most inversions. These 14 inversions, though, would...
There's a flash warning already, by the way. I don't know if that's obvious. I mean, it is, but okay. Do another display capture. There we go. Full desktop. I've disappeared. Yeah, also thanks for the warning on the British jump scare.
Would drastically impact the future of the park with one
Inconsiderate.
tragic event. This is the story of the Smiler.
Whoa.
Join us.
Based off of what I'm already seeing, if anybody has like prone seizures to flashing lights, like I think you're gonna want to not watch this. Come back in 20 minutes.
You belong to the Smiler.
What
Smiler,
the
the
fuck?
world's first 14 looping roller coaster. Book now at altontowers.com.
Excuse me?
You are now starting your correctional process.
The Black Hole was added to Alton Towers in 1984. The new ride captured the imagination of guests visiting the park. Located in a large tent, it was the park's second major coaster. It was even dismantled and modified to fit coupled trains instead of single trains to increase capacity of the popular ride. In 1997 though, something big was coming to the area. Every ride from the zone was removed except for the Black Hole, and construction began on Secret Weapon 4.
Don't look down.
The first of two world's first coasters
What is Secret
that would eventually
Weapon?
end up in...
Is Secret Weapon like a theme park series in England? Because like whatever this is Secret Weapon 7? Is Secret Weapon like a roller coaster team? Is there any British people here to tell me? Is anybody willing to out themselves as British? It's an Alton Towers thing? Okay. Mods, can you ban anybody answering my question?
the zone. In addition, Energizer and Enterprise were added, and the area was
Kidding.
rethemed to X Sector. The brand new zone was to be themed to a sinister, futuristic government facility. In 2005, Black Hole closed due to health and safety changes, and Alton not wanting to spend money to bring it up to code. And Oblivion stood by
Shocker.
itself as the only roller coaster in the zone. That, though, would change. The Black Hole was finally removed in 2007, leaving the tent empty. It would feature Scarefest mazes in 2011 before it was removed in 2012.
They say the perfect gift's a smile, but here at the Smiler Shop TV, our gift is a smile. Smile. We have just the thing to help you spread the happiness to everyone you meet.
This is
They'll be thankful you have. After all, who wouldn't want to receive a gift from the Smiler?
Plans on what were coming were submitted in December 2011
TikTok filters
and
be like.
granted in March, despite the usual opposition the park gets. It would be Gerstlauer who would build a new roller coaster for the park. Secret Weapon 7 was the first Infinity coaster,
Secret
a variant on the
Weapon
popular
7.
Eurofighter model such as saw the ride. It had been quite some time since Alton had received a real Secret Weapon thrill ride, with over 10 years since Secret Weapon 5 in 2002 aired. I don't really count Secret Weapon 6 as a thrill ride.
Oh, I was about to
Well,
say.
That ride was a bit timid. At least it's time now to get off. Apparently, oh, little jolt there. Okay, let's go. Ah! Oh!
What the hell?
No, that doesn't count. Less than a month before permission was granted, a new website launched where you could input your information to get updates.
Did we just watch a
on the
man
new brand.
die? What just
Secret
happened?
Weapon 7 would feature 2 chain lifts, one being vertical, a drop of 98 feet, and the most inversions on any roller coaster in the whole world. At the time, the ride with the most inversions was also at a Merlin park, with 10 on Colossus at Fort Park, tied with 1 in China, and another park was rumoured to be working on an 11-loop ride. Alton didn't want to just beat that record, they wanted to smash it. The original brief called for 12 or more, and they came back with 14. Located on the site of the black hole, with 20 tons of soil removed from the site similar to Nemesis due to the tree line restrictions at the park. The new ride would cost £18 million and was squeezed into a very small footprint. It would be Alton Tower's longest roller coaster by track length. The track would be a very dark grey to fit the surrounding theme with a unique story. It was officially announced as the Smiler.
It's $21 million for the Americans here. $21.5 million.
A huge marketing campaign surrounded the upcoming attraction. Spray painting of the ride.
Can I just say that this is a really fucking cool logo? Like, this is really cool. I'm into it. Like, this would pull me in immediately. It's so creepy.
Ride's logo, which resembles a smiling face, began to appear all over the park, and subliminal
way more effort than
appeared at different sections
all
of the Tower's website.
You know, games
the logo
doing
began appearing all across the country, including billboards in London, train stations,
themes,
and even projected onto buildings such as Big Ben. A selection of sheep flocks
Kids
were also
toy but
sprayed with the
bad
logo around the UK, which really got the media talking.
This week, we took the decision to paint sheep across the country to announce the name of our new world-first roller coaster, the Smiler.
That's what it's all about.
The fuck?
Don't see me smiling. I thought it was quite funny, actually.
I feel like I've had the wool pulled over my eyes.
Me too.
Nice
I
smile.
feel used.
Rubbish.
Average British PR stunt.
A countdown clock counted down to the ride opening on
the hell was
16th
that?
of March 2013. On the very early plans which were discovered, 8 inversions
Why
were
do
seen,
you guys
with a
make fun of
dark
us,
tone,
genuinely?
An industrial grunge-style station, and while the dimensions of the final result were the same, the theme was completely
What the hell was
different.
that, bro?
Original theming elements shown were a giant mechanical spider, which the ride would fly through the legs of, and while this was incorporated, this element was completely different to the originally planned X-Sector industrial theming.
It looks like the Daddy Longlegs from Pikmin.
A Smiler video game for mobile was released, and it had a much brighter theme.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kelman. I'm Chief of Medicine here at the Sanctuary. May I wish you all a very sincere welcome. By choosing the Sanctuary, you can rest assured you're in safe hands. After all, we are the market leader in social compliance treatment.
From before the ride's opening in 2012 through to 2014, Scarefest at the park featured a haunted maze themed to the ride located inside the iconic towers, which would introduce the ride story and introduce the world to the Ministry of Joy. This old facility allowed you to check yourself in for a checkup for those who were down or had lost their smile. This concept was called Marmalization and was developed by the secret group called the Ministry of Joy. 50 years ago,
yeah, I've got
Dr.
marmalade
Kalman,
as
the
well.
head of the
Big
project,
whoop.
used a team to experience on the mind and body for an increased social satisfaction, as they put it. This method, though, often led to disfigured subjects who had been caged away in the basement of the sanctuary, and that was the story of this haunted maze. And this maze was actually pretty good.
Each selected treatment accesses various parts of the body and of the mind in order to abolish any reoccurrence of any complaints.
What the hell is happening,
Welcome,
dude?
my friends, to the Sanctuary.
Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
In 2012, the ministry had returned with new modern methods to save us from the tragedy known as sorrow. The first patient to be marmalized was Miles Cedars.
They made my eye twitch, bro.
Miles Cedars. You do understand why you're here, don't you, Miles?
He was only halfway marmalized, but it worked, and they kept going and wanted to spread joy to many more. The center of the Smiler ride features the Marmalizer,
the fuck am I
and you, the
looking
rider,
at?
were volunteering to take this experience.
Ooh, this is
The different
so
processes
creepy,
seen
bro.
on the Marmalizer, the spider-like structure in the center of the ride,
This would
are
bang
their
nowadays.
inoculator, where a serum
People
is
would be
injected
all
into
about
the
this.
patients by syringe to give them a boost of joy. The tickler, where you are simply
The
tickled until
tickler?
you can't not smile. The flasher, where bright lights from above will blind and disorient the patient. The giggler, which used laughing gas to force you to laugh. And the hypnotizer, where swirling illusions were used to disorientate and mesmerize you.
Actually, Danny, come and have a look at these. Get them on camera. It says Miles Cedars tests.
Hey, stick them in your bag. No, seriously, stick them in the bag. They might be good for research or something.
What do you think? Right.
Yeah, take them. Wow. Oh my lord, bro.
In January, the countdown time was removed and the opening of
Put
the
him in
ride
my
was
bag
delayed,
with nothing
now
in it.
planning to open in May
For no reason.
2030.
Didn't
To
have that.
compensate for the
Yeah,
delay,
I
the
just carry
park
my
opened
bag
the
with
sanctuary
nothing.
maze until mid-April. The official date for the opening was set as May 16th.
This is creepy, dude. I love it.
2013. This wasn't met though due to delays in construction. The following day, a press event was held and a train stopped on the lift hill and riders were stuck for an hour before being evacuated. A new opening date of May 23rd was announced. The resort was booked out solid for the opening and the hype of the new attraction was huge. Marketing was seen everywhere and the world record looping roller coaster was about to open. Except, it wasn't. Less than 24 hours before opening, the resort announced it would not again be opening due to teething problems. Tickets were revalidated and the hotel stays were rebooked with no clue when it would actually open.
Due to what
Eventually,
problems?
It did of course open on May 31st with no prior
Where am I?
announcement
I need a
that
British
big day.
translator.
The compact ride begins with a hidden inversion inside before entering the first lift hill, and directly after a blur of inversions.
Teven? What does that mean, bro?
The ride. And the ride was closed multiple times due to technical issues. Twice within a week in early June, the train stalled during test runs during the ride's batwing element.
It means the teeth of the roller coaster that makes it move. I don't fucking know. I'm guessing. Thanks, man. Really helping out. What the fuck? Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna take a guess like I know what it is. All right, cool. Teething because Smiler?
Slayed for 7 months less than 3.
It means small problems like a baby teething. I could look it up myself. And I have hundreds of people sitting here. I already showed you guys what 18 million pounds was in American dollars. You guys owe me at least this much. Don't be selfish.
Before the park opened. The following month, 48 people were evacuated from the ride after an item fell from a section of the track described by riders as a 1 foot long metal bar or some kind of bolt. It caused 2 sections of the track to disengage, creating a small gap. Shortly after, the ride was closed for 5 days after cracks were found in the base of one of the ride's supports.
Love that.
Later in the same year, 4 people were injured when they were struck by guide wheels that detached from the chain during the vertical lift hill. So
They were
as you can
struck?
see, the opening year was quite troublesome. Unfortunately though, something more tragic was going to occur 2 years after opening that would severely damage the park's reputation,
Someone's gonna die.
attendance and income, and seriously injure multiple
Someone's gonna
people. As a word
die.
of warning, some of the following footage and information may be distressing.
It's dubbed the most terrifying roller coaster ride on Earth. This afternoon at 9 minutes past 2, the terror became reality.
9 minutes past
16
2.
people were in the carriage which collided with an empty car on the Smiler roller coaster.
On a very windy day on June 2nd, 2015, the ride was operated as normal, even though winds had reached 46 miles per hour and it was suggested not to operate over 34 miles per hour. Shortly after 1 PM, the ride issued a warning light indicating a fault. Visitors on the ride were removed and engineers were called. At this point, the ride had been operating with 4 trains on the track. Staff had been told to add a 5th train due to the number of guests in the park and decided to do this while the ride was empty. While the 5th train was being added, employees sent an empty carriage around the track to check operation was normal. This empty train though failed to make it up the incline and a warning system was activated. Engineers successfully fixed this issue with the empty train. Due to a breakdown of communication, the engineers on site had not been told a 5th train had been added and began the process to restart the ride. With staff preparing to allow visitors back onto the ride, another empty train was sent around and failed to make the climb and roll back down the track and came to a rest in a valley. Operators on the ride were unaware the train was stuck on the track and the first car full of passengers was sent around the track. As it climbed the first lift hill, the ride system stopped it from moving ahead, indicating the track ahead was occupied as it was designed to do. The engineer, still not aware that 5 trains were on the track, checked the location of the 4 he believed were active and did not see the 5th train sat stalled on the track. He later stated he felt he was pressured to minimize downtime on rides. Along with a colleague, they overrode the safety warning and the train with passengers continued up the lift hill. This train then slammed into the stalled car, creating what some described as a horror scene similar to a 90 mph car crash. As hundreds watched on in panic, the 2 cars rocked back and forth along the track with passengers at the front trapped between the crash barrier of the train. It took almost 20 minutes for the first 999 call to be made. The injured passengers sat trapped on the track for 4 to 5 hours before they were able to be released from the carriage, with some suffering from significant blood loss. The injuries resulted in leg amputations, shattered knees and punctured lungs.
If you think about how many theme parks there are in the world, and therefore how many thousands of people must ride on roller coasters every single day, well, statistically, incidents like this are very rare indeed. But Alton Towers has said that this accident is the worst in its history.
This tragic accident changed the lives of 16 people riding the train forever. Right after the incident, the Smiler, Saw the Ride and 2 other roller coasters at Chessington World of Adventure were closed while investigations got underway. Alton Towers was closed completely for 5 days as a result. After this, the Smiler remained closed while the other Merlin Parks rides were reopened.
I'm Neil Craig. I'm HSE's Head of Operations for the Midlands.
Neil Craig is a very British
name.
When
people visit theme parks, they should be able to enjoy themselves safely.
Neil Craig.
On 2nd of June last year, Merlin Attractions Operations Limited failed to protect their customers. They let them badly down. It is right that they've been held to account for those failings in a criminal court.
Merlin were fined £5 million for a failure of health and safety rules over the crash. They also rejected the idea that they had put pressure on employees to keep downtime to a minimum over safety.
Casual $8 million.
The impact of this crash would affect the resort drastically, and even to this day they work to recover. Attendance plummeted after the incident, and Alton reported a $14 million drop in revenue as a result of the crash. Multiple rides were closed in relation to the revenue loss, and investment into the park reached a new low. New safety measures were introduced, and compensation claims still continue to be assessed.
Goddamn.
Throughout the last 16 months, we've been...
The long pause, and then you just be like, fuck.
been very aware that we would end up
It'd be really funny.
facing a substantial penalty, and that has now been delivered. However, what I would like to say is that Alton Towers, and indeed
there were so many ways this could have been prevented, such as not running the ride in such high wind speeds, as well as better fighting communication.
That's
about
fast
how
winds,
cars are on the
dude.
track.
Didn't Tommy, Phil, and Will go to this park for a vlog? Did they really? The millennial pause. They went to Alton Towers for a vlog, really? Did they go on the Smiler? No, it's probably gone by then. It was this park. They did go on the Smiler? Whoa. Oh my God. That could have been my white boy. Oh shit.
the wider Merlin Group.
How recent is this?
Are not emotionless corporate entities. They're made up of human beings who care passionately about what they do.
Wicked dicks.
And in that respect, the far bigger punishment for all of us is the knowledge that on this occasion, we let people down with such devastating consequences.
2015?
It is something none of us will ever forget. and it is something we are utterly determined will never be repeated.
Our lapse of judgment and need for profit has cost us millions, and it's making me sad.
The Smiler did reopen in March 2016 with new safety checks and all references to correction and marmalization removed. Many people still remain cautious to ride the attraction, but no further incidents have occurred since.
Wait till you realize how unsafe most roller coasters are.
Business, but also with the employees who called the park home, as well as the passengers who were injured, and continues to be a devastating day that the park has been working hard to put behind them. For many though, it will never be.
Wooden roller coasters are terrifying, by the way. Like, a lot of roller coasters go through a lot of safety checks all the time. Wooden roller coasters are terrifying. It's the original, like before we made them like the way the Smiler is with this, like the metal, wooden roller coasters were like the move, and like they are so scary. Strictly like because wood warps. When wood is used over time, wood is warped, and it's not like metal in which you can like heat it and get it melted, put the heating point up and like bend the metal back or like replace the metal. It's fucking wood. Like, it's wood, and like that wood warps and stays warped, and it's terrifying. If you are a roller coaster connoisseur, I would suggest avoiding wooden roller coasters. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it's a lot.
Forgotten,
they're
and is
a
sadly
bit,
what this record-breaking ride is now
a
known
lot
for.
harder. It's a lot harder to keep up to date. Like, all of the track bolting and the wood itself and everything is like unstable because.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. If you enjoyed it, subscribe.
It has a hard time being around the wood and stuff.
And follow us on Twitter and Instagram for updates on where we are heading next. A special thank you to our Patreon.
Good channel, good channel, good channel. I subscribe.
There's one in Montreal that has sometimes 4 trains at the same time and has 2 different tracks, and it's the most creaky thing in the park.
Creaky? Yeah, I'm telling you. Terrifying. Scary stuff. I mean, like, I like a good roller coaster, but like wood roller coasters, I'm like full pass on, because that for all of, I mean, exactly what I said. It's literally like the wood warps and it messes with the track. It messes with the bolts on the tracks and stuff like that. That theme park just added a wooden coaster with fire features.
Welcome to Chili's.
I went on a wooden roller coaster in Six Flags once, and I swear the creaking was terrifying.
What the Anyway, important information.
Oh shit, fart on my roommate's door, ha.
Did you see it? On the left side of the door frame, barely visible on camera, a white translucent mist like soap slowly creeps into frame. As it
damn.
So, what do you think?
It's so loud. It's so loud. Like, it just keeps going, dude, and you're like, damn, that's a lot, and it's just like, I don't know, dude, it kills me every time. It's the competing audio, and then like, it's like he knows that the audio is competing, so he just like starts ripping a bigger fart. I don't know, it's too good. It's a classic, man. Anyway, ooh, guac. This is the frog. This is Baz's frog that made the frog fact out they ass meme in our Discord or on our stream. This is the frog that caused the frog fact out they ass gag. Real and based. Among Us VR real?
I'm the imposter.
The genuine horror. Why is he barking, bro?
Go to the base.
When people say that kids should be bullied, this is what they mean. This is what we're talking about. This is the kind of bullying that I'm for.
Frog fact out my ass.
That shit's funny, dude. That kid's gonna remember that for years. Sneeg cosplays. Oh. Just saying that they're epic. I thought there would be a link. More true crime and interesting content. Oh, this is Wendigoon again. I should follow this. People have been telling me about this channel for a while. Is there a good video to watch? 9.5 hours. Goodness. Wow.
St. Louis University, here I come. Cause him here, yippee.
Nice. W. That's a long video, bro. I will subscribe. I like content like this. His deep dives are really good. Okay. The time the CIA faked a vampire attack to take over a country.
Goon does ridiculously long
Hello,
videos, and I have definitely watched every second of some of them.
Alright, I'm gonna watch this one.
Everybody, today we're going to be talking about the time the CIA faked a vampire attack in order to take over the Philippines. Yeah. Several of my videos discussing weird historic events can be qualified as conspiracy theories, or at least conspiracy adjacent, but this one has been documented by government accounts, several journalists.
There's a lot going on. Smiley now can't operate over 35 miles, and they cannot override the error codes with the senior engineer, which has to carry out checks, so hopefully it never happens again, but sad to those who it was too late for. True. Unfortunately, in a lot of senses, that sort of stuff doesn't happen until somebody is unfortunately injured by it. Because we can prepare for the worst in so many ways, but it's hard to prepare for everything. So things that seem obvious might not have been obvious at the time. So it's like, yeah, you can't help but feel bad, but it's also like, I don't know. I mean, they might not have done it out of malice, you know what I mean? They might just not have known it was a bad idea, you know what I mean? The greatest safety measures are written in blood. I mean, yeah, pretty much, unfortunately.
Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the time the CIA faked a vampire attack in order to take over the Philippines. Yeah. Several of my videos discussing
Chernobyl's a great example.
Events can be qualified as conspiracy theories, or at least conspiracy adjacent, but this one has been documented by government accounts, several journalists, people who were there and affected by it, as well as the people who organized it themselves, so pretty straightforward. After World War II, the American government was concerned with communist influence in Southeast Asia. In order to establish power within Southeast Asia, the American government began commandeering several countries in the region. Among their places of concern was the area of central Luzon, Philippines. However, in the late 40s and early 50s, there was a local rebellion taking place within the Philippines that the government would have to quell in order to establish dominance in the region. So, in
guys, we're gonna sit in your Can you relax? Relax? I'm trying to be funny. The gall of this woman. What? Look at her. Wait for it. She's laying down, and I know the second I say something, the second I start talking to a length, she is going to pipe up.
Lieutenant Colonel Edward Lansdale was sent to the region in order to stop the rebellion by any means necessary. Since the rebel forces were composed of a guerrilla army, direct force didn't seem to work. So instead, Lansdale moved to psychological operations. And among those operations, as we'll talk about, were vampires. The story and a lot of the conspiracies around it run deeper than just hoo-hoo ha-ha vampire attack, but we'll also get to the hoo-hoo ha-ha vampire attack, so don't worry. But you'll see how a vampire attack in the Philippines connects to the Kennedy assassination and also sabotage condoms. I'm not kidding. As soon as I heard about this story, I had to immediately tell somebody about it. I mean, it's too weird not to. And as we move into the spooky season, I think this is a pretty good topic to bring up.
What?
So if that sounds interesting to you, stick around as we talk about the time that the CIA pretended
Oh
to be
no,
vampires.
dude, the CIA got to the rubbers.
This is my life now. And while we're talking about the spooky season, let's talk about the scariest thing of all. Having your personal data stolen.
No. Get the bag, but
Video.
not on my
We
stream.
are going to go ahead and get into it, but as always, thank you for watching. Now, the Philippines' relation with the United States has always been messy, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to look at World War II onwards. During the beginning of World War II, the majority of the Philippines were captured by the Japanese military. As soon as the imperial military had taken over the Philippines, they began to use its people and resources for the war effort. And not only did the people of the Philippines have things like their food and farms stolen by the Japanese, but in some cases, the military would even begin to steal their women and children. So, as you can imagine, several of the Philippine people began to fight back. The primary group of Philippine freedom fighters were known as the Hukbalahap. The Hukbalahap, also...
It's also how the U.S. convinced the Philippines to allow them to get involved, because it was the bad side. For people that don't know what the Cold War was, it was essentially Russia and the U.S. posturing war to each other and threatening to do it. But rather than do it, they like went into other countries and were like, hey, this country is trying to do bad things. Let us give you stuff so you fight for us. And then the other country would be like, hey, other country, or people of that country that don't agree with that, these bad people are trying to take over. Let us give you stuff. And so it was basically a lot of like the USSR and the USA like giving supplies to different countries to like fight each other in the name of, literally not like a proxy war, exactly a proxy war. It was literally a multitude of proxy wars. It was just a bunch of like the US and the USSR being like, hey country, fight for us in the name of freedom or communism, whatever. And then the other country would do the same, and then two other forces that weren't the US or the USSR would fight on behalf of us. And it was like not war. So the amount of movement and war efforts without the actual war taking place between us directly is why it's called like the Cold War, because there was no actual war between us. So the war effort was cold on that regard, whatever. Yeah.
Known as the Huk Rebellion, is an acronym that translates to the People's Anti-Japanese Army. During the war, the Americans would use the help of the Huks in order to destroy the Japanese holdouts that were within the Philippines. And as the Japanese began to clear out of the region, the Americans would begin to enlist the help of Filipino businessmen and elected leaders. However, this is where the problems begin. So, during the beginning of World War II, before America got involved and Japan...
Are there people who don't know what the Cold War is? Yeah. Probably. I would imagine so, considering it's mostly, like, between, like... I mean, like, I would imagine so because, like, it was a lot of, like the U.S., we learned about it plenty. But, like, a lot of other countries might not, that weren't, like, directly involved in terms of, like, us meddling with them or the USSR meddling with them. I'm British and wasn't taught it in school. Exactly. Like, I doubt a lot of people from England really know a lot about it or care because they didn't really do anything during it. They weren't really, like, involved. So... Really? Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm sure some places do, but like not every place is learning about like American wars. You know what I mean? I'm sure a lot are that don't deserve to because America's busy putting their finger in everybody's business, but
was taking over the Philippine Islands. Several of the businessmen and politicians tried to earn the favor of the Japanese so that they would have a more favorable outcome as the war progressed. So in the first years of the war, several of these leaders and landlords had allied themselves to the Japanese and would not only feed and house them, but give them advice about fighting their own people who were in the People's Anti-Japanese Army. So at the end of the war, whenever the U.S. government was trying to reinstitute the Filipino government, and they did it using the pre-existing leaders of the Philippines, that doesn't go over well with the people who have been fighting them for the past 4 years, as you could imagine. Because several of these leaders had helped the Japanese destroy their country, and then America comes in and says, yeah, these guys are still in charge. And while tensions were high, there was no direct violence, at least until 1946, when the leader of the PKM, a group that the Hucks were allied to, was murdered. Then they decided to get violent again. They changed their name from the People's Anti-Japanese Army to the People's Liberation Army, but still went by the name of Huck. And as America was trying to make a new government for the Philippines, the Hucks would smuggle weapons into the mountainside and begin to grow local resistance. It also didn't help the government's case that these local leaders who had previously had to do things under the watchful eye of the Japanese military were now pretty much given free rein by the Americans. So as soon as these leaders got power, they began to take a bunch of the food and resources from farmers and essentially just be a jerk to the peasant class that they didn't care for, which helped to increase support for the opposing Huck Rebellion. And by 1949, it's estimated that the Hucks had anywhere from 11,000 to 15,000 active fighters. A couple things to note with this is, for one, whenever you read about the Hucks in American or pretty much any official history text, they're kind of just called an offshoot of the Soviet Union and a directly communist strong arm of theirs in the Philippines, because during that time of the Cold War, the concern was between American capitalism and Russian communism. So anytime there was any problem or enemy that came up against America, they'd say, oh, well, they're just in league with the communists. And because of that, the Hucks have gone down in history as a communist fighters group. And while the Hucks were allies with the PKP, who was a group of fighters who were a part of the Soviet Union, all of the Huck fighters were like farmers who just didn't like having their stuff stolen. So while
it was an easy catch-all fear-mongering technique by America to basically... The communism was such like a threat to American ideology back after World War II that like we basically used it as a catch-all term for anybody that was like opposing us, to basically convince anybody in America that what we were doing was just. Red Scare, yeah. And like you said earlier, like literally we would find countries that were communist ruled and reach out to people opposing the ideologies of communism at the time and be like, we hate that too. Let us help you. So we would give them like supplies, like mostly guns and stuff, to basically rebel. And the USSR would do the opposite. to our countries, you know, it's still happening. Oh, most likely at a much less under the microscope degree for sure, but probably still happening, no doubt. But yeah.
You could maybe argue that kind of was in line with some of the beliefs. They just didn't want to get pushed around. So calling them a Soviet Union military organization is exaggeration at best. I should also mention that while everything I've said until this point paints the Hucks out to be just like these valiant freedom fighters fighting against the government, and while there were certainly elements of that, by 1949 the movement had become large enough that people would claim the name of the Huck Rebellion so that they could get away with things like murder and robbery. So while there definitely was a good cause, at least
got a
in the
league
beginning,
invite.
by 1949, 1950, the Hucks were seen as a bunch of rampant pillagers, at least around heavily populated areas. In the mountainside where the original Huck rebels were,
Ugh, what a weird
there was
Windows
more
notif.
grassroots movement to help them.
I wouldn't play
but that
League, that's
dissonance
weird.
Can't last long. Government is not being good to its people, and some of the people are acting a fool. Now, did the United States government care about this? No. They were concerned with the Russian threat, and everything they did was to advance that end, as we're going to see. So if America is going to have a position of power in the Philippines, which is a very strategic location for anything in Southeast Asia, then they're going to have to deal with this local infighting. So in 1950, the Pentagon sent one of their best men to the Philippines, Lieutenant Colonel Edward Lansdale. Now, if you're weird like I am and into crazy Cold War PSYOP stuff, Lansdale is a very familiar name. He wrote the book for what would become the majority of PSYOP tactics from Vietnam forward. He's also very instrumental in a lot of special forces training and tactics and adventures that they would go on later. And he was actually one of the founding members of the CIA. Before World War II, when he would join the military, Lansdale was an advertising executive in San Francisco. From that job, he developed knowledge as to how people's minds work and how to convince them of what you want them
Jack,
to
that
think.
wouldn't happen to have
So
been
whenever he
your
joined
League
the
invite, would it
military
have?
During World War II, he was sent to the Operation of Strategic Services, or the OSS, which after the war,
real
the
awkward.
members of it created the Central Intelligence Agency, or the CIA. So Lansdale, one of the first ever CIA agents, gets to the Philippines in 1950 and creates something called the Civil Affairs Office. The Civil Affairs Office was a means for Lansdale to communicate with Filipino leaders of how they can best destroy the Filipino rebellion. As an expert in psychological warfare,
go get
Lansdale
Mom.
said that the best way to convince a people of what you want them to think is by using their own truths and ideas against them. So after analyzing the situation and speaking with other leaders, Lansdale determined that the majority of Filipino people were very superstitious and had a lot of religious beliefs tied to local tradition. So he decided that that is how he's going to get them. The first of these operations went as follows. On a cloudy day, he had someone fly a small
If only he knew.
airplane with a
If he's
very
still
large
alive, he would
speaker
love America
attached
now.
to it.
Then
This airplane flew over the Philippine countryside, where it was believed that several of the locals were aiding and embedding Huck rebels. And from this large speaker flying through the clouds, played several curses in the locals' native language. These messages said that any collaborators who are helping the local rebels will have their family cursed and all of their belongings destroyed if they continue to aid them. And
she sits here. She sits here and screams at me as if my wife isn't in the other room, fully capable of helping her. She's so weird, dude.
it seems that this worked, as in the following weeks, several groups of Huck rebels turned themselves into the authorities because they were starving. See, typically with these guerrilla factions, they have to rely on the goodwill of others and create this underground network of supplies and shelter in order to sustain themselves. But now that these people were afraid of a curse and kicked them out, they had no other option but to turn themselves in or starve to death. So seeing that this was working, Lansdale doubled down. Lansdale had several men embedded into the local population in order to give him information as to where the Hucks were or what they were doing.
Usually
so
did.
using this information, Lansdale began
The more education for any non like Americans that didn't study Cold War stuff and espionage was a huge thing, obviously, because these were proxy wars without direct military involvement between the US and the USSR. So like this is exactly what would happen, where like both sides would plant people within the communities and the countries that they were trying to propagandize in order to get information regarding the environment and the community around that area. So yeah, this is exactly like think about exactly what's happening here in the Philippines like 20-30 times over, like within I don't even remember how long the Cold War was technically, but yeah, that multiple countries, this exact process over like a long time.
And to get data on which specific houses were aiding the rebels. Then, under the cover of night, his agents would go out next to these houses and spray paint these large watching eyes on the streets around these houses. So imagine that you are a local person who is invading a group of rebels, and while you're supportive to their cause, you also have yourself and your family to look out for. And then one day you go to bed, and when you wake up, there are eyes painted all around your house. Would probably make you think twice about helping these guys out. So because of this, collaborators became more few and far between, and the Huck rebels had to more so rely on their own resources. And now that we've set the stage for all that, let's talk about the vampires. Now the term vampire is a bit of an oversimplification of what actually happened. The Filipino people have a legend of a creature known as an Aswang. Aswang itself is kind of an overarching term that can embody ideas from witchcraft to zombie-like risen dead people to demonic spirits or what have you.
I'm so mad I'm going to continue to watch.
Aswang belief is that they are a blood-sucking creature who drains the blood of their victims, most often through a long tongue that shoots out and stabs people kind of like a mosquito.
Very
so
cool.
Lansdale, having seen that flying a plane and pretending to be God worked, maybe they should try the vampire thing. Specifically, there was a mountaintop in central Luzon.
We'll give the vampire thing a go.
Control point for the Huck rebels. And Lansdale decided to literally scare them out. So he had a couple of his men go to the villages around the mountain and begin talking of how they saw an Aswang on the mountain.
You can do a smidge of the vampire thing, I guess.
Sure enough, other rebels said that within the day, people in the town began to tell stories of how there is an Aswang or demonic creature draining the blood of people in the forest around the mountain. So Lansdale waited a couple days, at which point he was sure that the information got back to the Huck rebels directly, and then decided to send a group to attack. So a couple nights after this story's been floating around, there is a group of Huck rebels on top of the mountain doing a patrol around the trails along the top of the mountain itself. And as they're patrolling, this group of hitmen sneak up on them. Whenever the patrol has their guard down, they grab the guy in the back of the patrol and drag him into the bushes. Once they've got a hold of him, they kill him and take two small puncturing devices. I'm not sure if it was like a screwdriver or what, but they put two holes into his neck and hung him upside down to drain all the blood from his body. Then once that's done, they threw his body back onto the trail where he went missing so that whenever his guys come looking for him, they find his body drained of blood with two puncture holes in the neck.
Good God.
Yes, with no exaggeration, straight from their own admittance and declassified records, the CIA staged a vampire attack on this random Filipino freedom fighter. And perhaps even more surprisingly, it worked. The next day, the entire rebel force cleared off of the mountain. Now, is this because they thought that an Aswang was attacking them and may kill their entire camp? Possibly. But also, like, if I was with a group of friends and we were camping on a mountain and we thought that one of us had been killed by a vampire, we would probably leave.
Yeah.
But if I was with a group of friends on top of the mountain and we thought that some random dude...
If I was in a group of people and somebody went missing and we found him dead where we are, I would fucking leave. Why would you not? Why would you be like, oh, yeah. Everybody would leave. Realistically.
Dude killed our friend and staged it to look like a vampire, we would also probably leave. And yeah, it can be safely assumed that at least some people thought it was an Aswang. At the same time, a lot of people probably thought that it was the CIA killing them and draining their blood, which is also a pretty good reason to get out of there. From here, psychological operations continued in the Philippines for some time to come. And while everyone likes to remember the flying plane threatening curses at people and the giant eyes and obviously the vampire attack, there were a lot of other psychological operations that had the same, if not greater, effect. For example, Lansdale began a radio show that people in the mountains for the first time could hear directly from their leaders how they're trying to rebuild the country.
What'd you say?
Lansdale made sure that government officials were no longer being abusive to the locals, which, again, if the locals feel like they're not being oppressed, they don't really have the need to support a group of freedom fighters. And several government leaders would dress up and pretend to be Huck rebels and go through villages stealing food and yelling at people. So as villagers began to think that the government was beginning to have their best interests and be supportive, while the Hucks were murdering people and acting like jerks, half legitimate, half government
Espionage.
officials dressed up as Huck rebels, then support for the Huck Rebellion began to die out. It was also about this time, again around 1953, that the Filipino government was like, wow, thanks America, we sure are glad you helped us out with those rebels. You can go ahead and leave whenever you want. And the CIA was like, yeah, leave. While Lansdale was there, he became friends with someone known as Raymond Magsaysay. During Lansdale's operations,
You would be
in the
upset
country,
at the amount of
Raymond was
times
head
the
of
U.S.
their
has pulled that
Department of
off.
Defense. And
The amount of times the U.S. has
You
been
ever
like,
think that the government warden.
did you hit enter too fast or? Yes. Anyway. The government got him. Oh, shit. No! Yeah, the amount of times America has been like, hey, we'll help your country dealing with stuff, and then we deal with it, whether by convincing them we did or actually mostly convincing them, even if we didn't. They'd be like, cool, you guys can go now. And we'd be like, no, I don't think so.
Raymond aided Lansdale in his operations in the Philippines. So the two became friends whenever Lansdale was doing his
Basically,
operations.
America would be like, yeah, that's
and
cute,
around
and then stay.
1952, he says, hey, Raymond, why don't you run for president? And Raymond says it's a great idea and begins to run. But as soon as he does, he quickly realizes that it's not him running for president, it's the CIA running for president. Raymond was used as a puppet, and everything from his speeches to his policies were decided by the U.S. government. To ensure Raymond's election, the CIA began running smear campaigns against all of Raymond's opponents. Everything from rumors in the paper to spiking their drinks before they gave a speech in order to make them look unfavorable to the public. One day, before he gave a speech, Raymond suggested that perhaps this time, instead of Lansdale and the CIA giving him a speech, maybe Raymond could write his own speech or have one of the locals help him write his speech.
Dead.
And Lansdale got so mad that he began to hit Raymond to the point that Raymond was knocked out. By the time Raymond was elected in 1953, he was so battered and scared of the U.S. government that he sent a message directly to President Eisenhower that said, I will do whatever the United States wants me to do, even if my people disagree with it. Also from declassified reports, whenever the day of the election came and Raymond was
cool
elected,
stuff.
it turns out the CIA had illegally smuggled guns into the country and hidden them around the city so that if he wasn't elected, they could stage a coup. In 1957, he even passed a new law that said the Philippines will never
Lovely country. I love my country.
accept any form of communism.
Love my country.
As it, quote, puts us under the control and domination of an alien power. And, you know, we wouldn't want that now, would we? Raymond died in a plane crash in 1957, and immediately the CIA had a new puppet that they wanted to run. And one of the opponents of the CIA, who was also running at the time, was named Claro Recto. And initially, the CIA just wanted to kill him, but then decided they couldn't for logistic purposes. So as part of their smear campaign against him, they began to leave these packages of condoms all over populated areas that said they were from Claro Recto, but in the top of all of them was a very visible hole poke, so that the people would think this guy running for office wants to sabotage their love life for some reason. In May of 1954, the leader of the Huck Rebels, Louis Taruk, would turn himself into the authorities, and surprisingly only got 15 years in jail, which I would assume they'd just kill him. But with Taruk turning himself in, a lot of people considered 1954 to be the official
classic prank, dude. Classic CIA.
After transferred to
classic CIA.
There yet. And from there, Lansdale would go on to develop a lot of the tactics that were used in psychological warfare during the war in Vietnam.
So true.
Famously is Operation Wandering Soul, where they tried to convince Vietnamese soldiers that there were ghosts in the jungle. No, I'm not kidding. However, he wasn't directly involved with that operation. It was more so his influence in the departments he created, because at the time, he was the lead in Operation Mongoose. Operation Mongoose was the secret operation that didn't officially happen until they said it officially happened years later, like they always do, where Lansdale was officially tasked with killing Castro, or at least destroying the Cuban government by whatever means possible. After Lansdale's failure with this and things like the Bay of Pigs operation, he was officially fired from his position as...
Bay of Pigs was the actual assassination attempt on Castro, by the way. It did not work. Interesting subject, by the way. If you haven't read up, if you haven't ever seen America's attempt to assassinate Castro, it's pretty fascinating. Like, America would never admit it, but like, we got played. Also, like, yeah, the guy straight up missed, which didn't help. Did not help in the, you know how you're supposed to, like, when you assassinate somebody, you're supposed to shoot them. The guy who shot at Castro just didn't miss. He just missed completely. Like, I from what I remember reading about it, it wasn't close.
And it failed?
Yeah. Multiple attempts to kill him. Like, multiple attempts to discreetly kill him. And then we got so mad, we just were like, all right, let's just shoot him. And then the guy who was supposed to shoot him just fucking missed. Like, completely missed. So.
Head over CIA psychological warfare.
It's a funny subject if you like dumping on America. Which,
however, he still maintained several.
If you're an
ties to the
American, you
CIA
should,
after
because
this,
we've done
and
some pretty
according
awful
to many
things.
theorists, was a part of the Kennedy assassination, or if he wasn't directly one of the collaborators, at least knew about it. Which, for a guy who's already faked a vampire attack and pretended to be God, I'm sure killing a president's like a normal Tuesday for him. And with that, we have the end of the story of that time the CIA pretended to be vampires in order to take over the Philippines. See, I told you I wasn't lying. And remember, kids, the next time that somebody tells you the government wouldn't do that, oh yes they would. Because if pretending to be vampires is something they're just willing to throw out there, think about the stuff they're not willing to tell us. And while I'll probably do longer videos in the future where I compile a lot of them, I read about this story and there was no way I couldn't talk about it immediately right now with no hesitation. So hopefully if you're still watching, you think it's at least half as cool as I know it is. And if you do, that's really cool. And I'm really glad you're here and you're really cool. And I just want to say, thank you for watching. Thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, as the moment I heard about this story, I was like, I have to tell everyone right now immediately. And it's also a good introduction to spooky season. Me and my conspiracy theory having self and vampires. Like, what a horrible connection. I love it. But thank you all for watching this long. If you're curious about reading more into it, there's this fantastic book by William Bloom called Killing Hope: U.S. Military and CIA Interventions Since World War II. He's a journalist was a journalist, he's passed away now, but he went through all of the court records and declassified information and laid out all of the government's meddling post-World War II. And it's a fantastic book I'm working my way through, and he details all of this stuff like very thoroughly, and it's a great read, and there's a lot more where this came from. I'll probably eventually make a video like giving a brief summary of all of them because I think they're really cool. Also, you may know about William Bloom because he was considered a very controversial figure when in 2006, Osama bin Laden, during one of his broadcasts, recommended his book Rogue State, A Guide to the World's Only Superpower, saying that it's a good book against the American government.
What?
And whenever that happened,
Nice.
he had the best book sales he ever experienced, but was never asked to speak in any public events again.
That's really
'Cause
funny.
He was, obviously considered ostracized because Osama bin Laden spoke for him. But he does make a lot of good summaries and compilations, or made. I keep saying it. He's passed away now, but he's still here in spirit. No, but he
What
made
a weird
a lot of good
promo.
summaries and compilations of like not just conspiracy stuff, but just
thanks.
stuff they've admitted to doing, like the vampire attacks. And like I said, there will be more of this whenever I get done working my way through the book. So hopefully you enjoyed it, because there's more to come. But for now, I want to say thank you all so much for the support you've shown me on the last video. After I botched I'm so paranoid with stuff. After I mess something up, I'm like, that's it. That's the channel. That's all she wrote. And then I like messed up the Frankenstein upload, but then you guys are just as supportive as ever on a video about a black and white movie, again, that none of us were alive for, and that means a lot. So hopefully you enjoyed. I also want to mention that Internet Historian, one of my favorite YouTubers of all time, made a video on his main channel that I got to be the face and the
Oh, we
voice
watched
of,
this one.
the
It's
lead
the
one, and that
it's
meant a
the
lot.
guy who
Internet
got trapped in the
Historian's
mine
always been one of my
shaft.
favorite channels. And it's weird to think, like, 2 of his videos ago, I started YouTube, and now I'm like front and center in one of his. It's a blessing. He's a great
saw
guy
that
to
one.
work with. So I'll link that video in the description, because I think it's really cool and you all should check it out. And again, thanks, man, for putting me in that. It means the world. But anyway, I believe that should do it for now. I believe we're at 1.84 million. Thank you all so much for that. It means the world. And I'm excited for spooky season. Got a lot of plans coming up ahead, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Don't point at me. That was a good one. Very cool, very cool, very cool. Funny animated video. Wait, this says my name on it. Why? All together.
I should be applying
What?
for colleges.
Is it an animation of me?
Going and smacking my cat's belly was all I've been doing for hours.
I didn't know this was real. I didn't know this existed.
I love that imagery. Just like, that's a good cat. You just draw like one line, your cat's like, because you stop.
I didn't even remember I said that. That's funny. This is why I want this to exist, man, because I've never seen that. That's a year old and I haven't seen that. And I don't know if I would have unless like this existed. This is exactly why I want this forum to exist. You know what I mean? True crime. VODs versus the world.
So today's going to be a little more storytelling.
I know who she is.
I have already
30 minutes. Try to figure his. This is the type of content that like I want to do, like how she's doing it, where she, because I've seen videos of hers where she like explains a story. This is the type of content I would love to do.
Over competitive banana sales.
Yeah, kind of. This is that's the kind of stuff I do want to watch. We'll save it for crime time though. I also want to, I mean, not watch, make. I want to make stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Woo.
Cookie. Huge. Check on my dinner. I've got to pee. Just gonna leave this up for you guys. I have a cheese stick. This meal just made me hungry, man. You know what I mean? Don't judge me, it's delicious. To each their own, man. Murdaugh trial. Oh, I saw this. I saw that this trial was commencing. "20 minutes? Yeah, let's do it.
What bridge is it called?
This is a very recent thing. The trial just happened recently.
What bridge is this? Oh, what bridge?
911, where's your emergency? Hello? Police, fire, EMS. Hello?
We're in a boat crash on Arthur Street.
Whereabouts on Arthur Street?
In Arthur Street, the only bridge on Arthur Street. We're in a boat crash.
Okay, so you're at the...
Son of a wealthy, powerful, straight out of a class.
We have someone missing.
It's a story straight out of a classic John Grisham murder mystery. The son of a wealthy, powerful family of attorneys in a small town in South Carolina was facing jail time in a suspicious boating death of a beautiful 19-year-old girl, but he never made it to court.
Relax, bud.
Just 3 days before his trial, he and his mother were murdered at the family's hunting compound. Then, 2 months after finding their bodies, his father was shot on the side of a country road. He survived, but his reputation didn't. Millions of dollars were missing from his family's law firm,
God.
and he was forced out.
I clicked a link, my bad.
But the story doesn't end.
I opened up a RuneScape quest guide by accident.
There, in lowered voices, the Murdaugh name has been linked to 2 other deaths. A 19-year-old teenage boy mysteriously killed on the side of a highway. Then there was the Murdaugh's housekeeper. She died after a mysterious trip and fall at the family home. Was revenge a motivation for murder? Or can the suspect be found closer to home? Was someone trying to keep an old and powerful family's secrets quiet? In a story full of questions, only one thing's for sure. This is a family with skeletons. What do you say we open the closet? Welcome to True Crime Recaps. I'm Chris, and to tell this story best, we have to start in the middle, on a chilly Sunday in February 2019. It was about 5:30 when Paul Murdaugh and his girlfriend, along with 2 other couples, Mallory Beach and her boyfriend Anthony Cook, and Anthony's cousin Connor and his girl, all set out for an oyster roast. The party was only a few miles away by car, but they took a winding route through the backwaters in Paul's father's boat. Before they took off, he used his older brother Buster's ID to get booze. By the time the group left the party around midnight, it was pitch black on the water. The boat's lights weren't working, so the 6 of them took turns holding the flashlight to guide their way. The plan was to spend the night at the Murdaugh family river house. But they never made it. After drinking for hours, friends say Paul's angry alter ego emerged, a real jackass they all called Timmy. According to depositions published by FI.
This dude gets so mad when he's drunk he has an alter ego? What the fuck? Don't give him an alter ego. Give him a fucking AA meeting. What the hell?
FITS News, you could always tell when he became Timmy. His eyes got wide as $50 without blinking. He holds his hands sprawled out and makes weird movements with his arms. And Timmy wanted to keep the party going. It was almost 1 a.m. when they docked again at the waterfront bar.
Once again, I feel like this is something that would solicit, like, taking him to an Alcoholics Anonymous, not like giving him a name for his behavior.
He and Connor got a couple of Jaeger and lemon drop shots while the rest of the group waited on the dock.
What in the world,
Timmy was feeling invincible. The boat was speeding up, flying through the foggy night, and the group was getting scared. When Paul's girlfriend tried talking to him, he slapped and spit on her, cussing her out, saying horrible things. She gave up and sat on the floor and covered her eyes. As for Anthony and Mallory, they were on the floor in the back praying and hanging on. They were going almost 30 miles an hour when they crashed into a concrete bridge piling. The impact threw all 6 of them into the water, but only 5 made it to land. A week after the crash, fishermen found Mallory's body almost 6 miles away. Now, who was responsible for her death? Who was driving the boat? And who would be brave enough to tell the truth? Anthony gave a statement to the local cops right after the crash.
We're on the main road. You won't miss us.
Get that motherfucker right there away from me. Bro, you fucking smiling like it's fucking funny. My fucking girlfriend gone, bro. You think it's fucking funny? Hope you what fucking hell.
Sit down. The driver is the one with no clothes on, correct? To be honest with you.
No clothes on?
You were getting mad at back there. He was in his drawers.
You were the last one driving whenever I got down in the floor of the boat and held on my girlfriend.
Yes. So we need to know exactly who was driving, and that's, you said that was the last one you saw, so that's why I told them, because his ass will be responsible, okay?
And Paul was driving, not Connor?
They were both sitting on the front seat. I finally got to the point I grabbed my girlfriend and put her in my lap in the bottom of the boat and was holding on with my eyes closed. The next thing I know, I'm in the fucking water and I can't find me.
And Paul and Connor were sitting on right behind the console?
Seat.
Yeah.
Okay. I had done fought with both of them for 30 minutes about letting me drive, and both of them thought it was fucking funny.
Yeah. Okay.
Y'all know Alec Murdoch?
Oh, yeah, I know that name.
That's his son.
That's so driving the boat.
Good luck.
The Murdaughs are one of South Carolina's most powerful legal dynasties. Randolph Murdaugh founded the family law firm in 1910.
Of course.
For the next 80 years, Murdaughs held sway over criminal and civil cases in the area. They made their millions with wins against massive corporations like Ford, Nissan, and the CSX Railroad, and used their money to buy up thousands of acres of local land. The Murdaughs were one of the richest and most feared families around, with a reach that went deep into local law enforcement. Now, by our count, in the statement you heard earlier, Anthony told 2 different officers Paul was behind the wheel. But in the official report, they said Anthony wasn't sure who was driving. And when Paul's father, Alex, and his grandfather showed up at the hospital, the investigation got even muddier. Just 2 hours after the deadly boat crash, Paul's alter ego, Timmy, was showing no signs of slowing down. When a nurse tried to get a urine sample, he asked her to hold his member. Then he told her she had a nice butt. He screamed at officers who tried questioning him, asking why it was important who was driving, before yelling that it definitely wasn't him. Bizarrely, the officers had yet to give him a sobriety test. It was the doctors who insisted on
behavior.
it. 3 hours after he'd taken his last drink, his blood alcohol level was 0.28, way over the legal driving limit of 0.08. That's when the older Murdaugh stepped in to shut him up. His grandfather stayed in the room to make sure he didn't say another word, while Alex tried to do damage control with the other passengers in the...
About 10%. 0.10% higher is basically the lethal amount you can have in your body. Pretty much before you are gonna be in trouble.
Parents, although not everyone wanted to hear what he had to say. Take Paul's girlfriend. She refused to let Alex near her, and later she told officers he was trying to tell her what to say. Connor Cook claimed Alex told him to keep his mouth shut and the family would take care of him. But in actuality, it looked like the exact opposite was true. In fact, the only local cop to ID Paul as the driver found himself fired for alleged drug use not long after, according to FITS News. Were the Murdaughs trying to pin the crash on Connor? If they were, they couldn't manage to control everyone who was on the boat.
A-cab, bro. One cop decides to do the right thing and he's fired. This is why. People think it's like a literal term. It's that's why. you think cops do the right thing. They try to, and they get fired. Mysteriously, all of a sudden.
Anthony wasn't about to let Paul get away with Mallory's death. Connor wasn't going to take the fall for his rich friend, and Paul's girlfriend wasn't planning on letting him keep pushing her around. Ultimately, they all said under oath, Murdaugh was driving the boat. Paul was a junior at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, on track to go into law just like his father and grandfathers before him, and after the crash, there was no indication that his plans had changed. He was back in school and hadn't spent a minute in jail. In fact, it took almost 2 months for him to be charged, and he was immediately released on a $50,000 bond. Unlike most people in his situation, he didn't have to wear an ankle bracelet or even stay sober. By all appearances, his future was moving forward just as it always had. But if he was convicted, he faced 15 to 25 years behind bars, and his legal aspirations would be worthless. And he wasn't the only one with a lot to lose at a trial. His father owned the boat he was driving, and prosecutors were demanding the family's financial and property records. All the better to find out exactly how much the Murdaughs could afford in reparations. And, as I hinted earlier, Alex had a vested interest in keeping his financial record secret. But just 3 days before the first hearing was scheduled to begin, Alex found the bodies of his son Paul and his wife Maggie at the family's hunting compound.
I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
But hold on.
His hearing was an interest in keeping his financial record secret. But just 3 days before the first hearing was scheduled to begin, Alex found the bodies of his son Paul and his wife Maggie at the family's hunting compound.
I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son. They're on the ground out at my kennel.
And did you see anyone? Okay, is he breathing at all?
No, no.
I saw the body cam footage of the police arriving at the scene with him on TikTok, I think. So.
Is she? Okay, do you see anything? Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am.
What color is your house on the outside?
It's white. You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Alex Murdaugh.
Okay, and did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, ma'am. I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay, and was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am.
Is he moving at all, your son? I know you said that she was shot, but what about your son?
Turn it down, sorry.
Nobody.
The operator's
They're not
so
getting
fucking
one
loud
of
on the
them
mic.
moving.
And does anything look out of place?
Not particularly, really. No,
Double
ma'am.
CC,
All right,
sorry.
I'm going back down there.
I don't want you to touch them at all, okay? I don't know if you've already touched them, but I don't want you to touch them just in case they get any kind of evidence, okay?
I'd already touched them trying to get to see if they were breathing.
The 5,300 square foot house sat in the middle of 1,700 lush acres on a private
Convenient.
road far away from town. The Murdaugh family named it Moselle, but the locals called it Murdaugh Island. And interestingly, the island didn't even belong to Alex Murdaugh. Not technically, anyway. County property records published by FITS News say he sold the place to Maggie 3 days after Christmas in 2016 for the low price of $5 plus love and affection. So that's a good deal. But some sources say
Cringe.
Maggie wasn't holding up her end of the bargain. The marriage had reportedly been on the rocks since then. Did Maggie suspect her husband was up to no good? He was stealing from his law firm. Was the family fortune also missing money? According to Crime Online, before her murder, Maggie hired a forensic accountant to check the books. The question is, did Alex know? Since this story is still developing, answers are hard to come by, but here's what we know. Alex called 911 around 10 p.m. on June 7, 2021. The coroner put Maggie and Paul's time of death around 9 or 9:30 that night. Pretty close timing, don't you think? Did he just miss the shooter, or is there something more vicious going on here? Alex claimed he had an alibi. He was with his dying father. Now, incidentally, his father passed away 3 days later. Alex claimed he got home to find his wife and son dead on the ground several yards away from each other, outside near the dog kennels. But here's the even stranger thing. They were shot with 2 different weapons. According to FITS News, Paul was shot in the chest and head with a shotgun.
That is interesting.
Maggie was killed with an automatic rifle, but nothing else appeared to be amiss. No robbery, no property damage, no suspects. Well, almost no suspects. The state police...
Chat, what do we think is the likely answer when, like, this sort of thing happens and there's no other evidence of a different crime? Ghosts. Nice. Real. Zoinks! Closest relative. Not necessarily, but an inside job for sure. I assume the police would immediately suspect somebody within the family or close to the family with access to the home. Because if this was just a normal criminal, why wouldn't they want anything? Like, this is a rich person's house. Why wouldn't they want anything in there? Unless it's somebody who either is motivated from whatever this guy did, or this, I think it's this one, or, you know, the dad.
Immediately,
clearly the dad's being postured as the culprit. Yeah.
Before his extracurricular activities came to light, Alex Murdaugh was a partner in the family law firm, and he also served as a volunteer litigator in the prosecutor's office, where his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather had held top positions for almost 100 years. The family's private firm handled civil cases. If an investigation unfolded in the low country of South Carolina, a Murdaugh or a Murdaugh employee probably played some role in it. Except this one. Local cops called in the state police right away. A couple of months later, the local prosecutor stepped aside. Why? Because of a conflict of interest. Is that the first statement in a series of statements that leads to a surprise arrest? Investigators are being very tight-lipped, but something they discovered pointed them back to another death that's long been unofficially linked to the Murdaughs. That of 19-year-old Stephen Smith. Stephen was an openly gay teenager studying to be a nurse when he was found in the middle of a country highway on July 8th, 2015. He died 15 miles from Moselle, the house where Paul and Maggie would be murdered 6 years later. But what exactly killed Stephen is still a mystery. Here's what we do know. A passing driver found his body around 4 a.m. His car had been left on the side of the road 3 miles away. The gas cap was open. So was he walking to buy gas? Could be, but his wallet was still in the car. At first, they figured it was a hit and run, but his injuries were strange. His head was brutally disfigured with a 7-inch hole on the right side of his forehead. His right shoulder was dislocated and bent back behind his body, and he had cuts and bruises on his right hand.
That's fucked.
The rest of his body was uninjured, and his clothes didn't look like he'd been in an accident. His phone and keys were in his pocket. Even his shoes were still on, although reports say they were loosely tied, and he wasn't drunk or on drugs. A tox report came back clean. He was sober when he died. But how did he die? The coroner first called it death by shooting, which was more of a guess, prompted by his head wounds, but there was no gun, or bullet shells, or even any evidence to prove he'd been murdered where he was found. In fact, the lack of evidence was evidence that someone went to a lot of trouble to cover up what had happened. There wasn't even any shattered glass, car parts, or tire marks in the area. There was just nothing, which meant it was anyone's guess. And the cause of death was changed from a shooting back to a hit and run. Their theory was he was walking down the highway to get gas without his wallet, but okay, and the side mirror of a large truck or semi hit him in the head and killed him. Why wouldn't he have moved out of the way? Was it really an accident? Now, that's a question his friends and
He was on the side of the road and a semi's mirror hit him? God, the police sure are smart. So happy we have them and their investigative skills. Totally not influenced by corruption.
and family have been asking for 6 years. As far as they're concerned, it was no accident.
Did they even
Someone
try?
beat Stephen
Probably
to
not.
death. But who? At the time, there were no official suspects, but the Murdaugh name was mentioned in more than 40 anonymous tips. According to police records obtained by FITS News, Paul and his brother Buster were 2 people the State Patrol were looking at. Buster and Stephen were rumored to be intimate, although that was never proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. It was hard to prove anything, really, since a lot of the evidence went missing. The DNA from his fingernails,
How crazy.
the clothes he was wearing, even the rape kit they allegedly did. As his mother told FITS News, quote, "The case was mysteriously bounced from investigator to investigator without reasons or notification. It would repeatedly get to a certain point, then the assigned investigator would bow out. Perhaps not wanting to take on Solicitor Murdaugh? No one ever was charged, but was the renewed interest in Stephen's case making someone nervous? Almost 3 months to the day his wife and son were shot dead, Alex became the 3rd Murdaugh to be shot. It happened on Saturday afternoon, September 4th, on the side of the road about 7 miles from the Moselle compound. He claimed he was on his way to Charleston when his Mercedes got a flat and he pulled over.
Bro's a toe, man.
When he got out to inspect the damage, he said a car drove by, asked him if he was having car trouble, and when he answered no, the stranger shot him in the head. But they missed, well, sort of. The bullet hit him, but it was more of a superficial wound than life-threatening.
Oh, how
He was able
lucky.
to call 911
That's crazy.
himself. Then he said a good Samaritan happened by and called an ambulance.
Oh, so lucky.
Which led to Alex being airlifted away from the scene by a chopper before the police got there. It all seems a little...
Airlifted away from a graze? Golly gee, how lucky for him. What are the chances?
Little strange,
Get
doesn't
the
it?
fuck out of here.
He claimed to have spoken to the shooter, but couldn't offer a description. He claimed the tire was flat, so he pulled over, but the Mercedes was outfitted with no flat tires, the kind you can keep driving on for at least 50 miles, even without tire pressure. And here's something else bizarre. The tire didn't just run over a nail, it was slashed, and the knife belonged to Alex Murdaugh. Thank you, FITS News, for that bombshell.
Can't believe it.
Was it all a lie? Was this a suicide attempt gone wrong? A misguided effort to draw attention away from himself as a suspect?
No!
At this point, it's anybody's guess.
No way.
But we do know that the day before he was shot, he was forced out of his own law firm after the books came up short $1 million or more. It was also revealed that he was struggling with an opioid addiction, although what, if any, connection his drug abuse had to the missing money hasn't been openly determined, and his lawyer claims the shooting wasn't a botched suicide attempt.
His drug use probably has to do with him murdering his family one by one.
Banned from practicing law, and he checked himself into rehab. But we're not quite finished with the Murdaugh family saga just yet. There's one more questionable death you need to hear about. Just when you thought things couldn't get stranger, listen to this. The family's housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield, died in a mysterious trip and fall accident in February 2018. But was it actually a push and fall? The details of her death are murky, but the court documents published by FITS News offer a few clues. It doesn't say where exactly she died, but it does name Alex and only Alex as the defendant. The timing is also interesting. Just a few months before Mallory Beach died in the boating accident in 2019, the Satterfield lawsuit was settled for about $500,000 in insurance money. Now, I have to wonder if any other money from the Murdaugh personal bank account was offered, along with maybe a non-disclosure form. Did someone take revenge on the Murdaugh family? Reports say Mallory and Stephen's family members have given DNA samples to investigators, and so have the rest of the survivors from the boat accident. But this is a powerful family with almost a century of influence behind them. If revenge is the motive, maybe it has nothing to do with the recent tragedies and everything to do with the past. You know what they say about revenge. It's a dish best served cold. And that's your recap. Thanks for spending some time with us today. If you want to keep up with this case and other crimes in half the time,
this kind of content is what I want to also do. You know what I mean? Love it. Oops, desktop. I think that's pretty good for now. Yeah, man. I mean, it's been 2 hours. This is like, it's been literally 2 hours of doing this. You know what I mean?